What you're about to witness will make your blood boil. What you're about to hear will shake the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about WWE WarGames. And what WWE did to Drew McIntyre, it's absolutely disgusting. Welcome back to Wrestle Scope, where we break down the real stories that WWE doesn't want you to talk about. I'm your host, and today we're diving into the most controversial, most brutal, and quite frankly, most disrespectful moment in recent WWE history. Before we get into this absolute carnage, if you're as outraged as I am about what went down, smash that like button. And if you think WWE crossed the line, drop a comment right now. Let's get into this. Hello viewers, if you're new here, please don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button for daily updates about WWE Raw. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw WWE completely disrespect a top star? When was the last time you witnessed a company sacrifice one of their most loyal, most hardworking, most over superstars just to push a narrative that makes zero sense? At WWE WarGames, Jacob Fatu returned. And he didn't just return. He came back like a man possessed, seeking revenge. And he absolutely annihilated Drew McIntyre in a way that has the entire WWE universe divided, angry, and questioning everything. Drew McIntyre, the Scottish warrior, the man who carried WWE through the pandemic, the man who has bled, sweat, and sacrificed everything for this company. The same man who has been one of the most consistent performers for years. And what does WWE do? They feed him to Jacob Fatu like he's some sort of sacrificial lamb. But here's where it gets even more infuriating. This wasn't just a regular beatdown. This wasn't your typical wrestling storyline. What Jacob Fatu did to Drew McIntyre inside that WarGames cage was nothing short of attempted murder. And the worst part? WWE is trying to sell this as good storytelling. Are you kidding me right now? The build-up, no one talks about. Let's rewind for a second, because the media, the dirt sheets, and even WWE themselves are trying to gaslight us into thinking this came out of nowhere. But those of us who've been paying attention, we saw this coming from a mile away. Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre have been on a collision course ever since Fatu aligned himself with the Bloodline. Remember when Drew cost the Bloodline that crucial match back in October? Remember when Drew stood tall, looked directly into the camera, and basically called out the entire Samoan dynasty? That was the spark. That was the moment Jacob Fatu, the most dangerous member of the Bloodline, marked Drew McIntyre for destruction. But here's what makes this entire situation infuriating. Drew McIntyre has been telling us for months that he saw this coming. He warned us. He told us that the Bloodline was coming for him. He told us that Jacob Fatu was a different breed of monster. And what did WWE do? They ignored him. They pushed him into other storylines. They made him look like he was paranoid. And then, WarGames happened. The disrespect started long before that cage was lowered. It started when WWE booked Drew in a position where he was outnumbered. It started when they made sure his team had internal conflicts. It started when they set him up to fail. The match breakdown. Now let's talk about what actually went down at WarGames. Because if you only watched the highlights, you missed the full story of just how brutal this really was. The match starts, tension is high, both teams are going to war. Drew McIntyre is doing what he does best, being an absolute warrior inside that steel structure. He's hitting claymores left and right, he's throwing grown men around like they're children. The Scottish warrior is in his element. But then the countdown hits, the cage door opens, and Jacob Fatu's music hits. The arena erupts, but this isn't a normal pop. This is different. There's an energy in the building that's almost terrifying, because everyone in that arena knows what's about to happen. Everyone knows that Jacob Fatu has been waiting for this moment. Everyone knows that Drew McIntyre is about to face hell. Fatu enters the cage, and the look in his eyes, pure rage. This man hasn't forgotten what Drew did. This man has been sitting at home, recovering from his injury, stewing in his anger, planning every single move he's about to unleash. And unleash he does. The first contact between Fatu and Drew, it's not even a wrestling move. Fatu spears Drew through the cage wall, not into the cage, through it. The sound of Drew's body hitting the steel, the way the cage buckled, the way the crowd went from cheering to gasping in shock. But Fatu isn't done. Not even close. He picks Drew up, drags him back into the cage, and what happens next is what has everyone outraged. Fatu hits Drew with not 1, not 2, but 5 consecutive hip attacks. Each one more devastating than the last. Each one driving Drew's head into the steel cage. Each one showing no mercy. Drew is bleeding. The Scottish warrior, the man who has been through wars, who has never backed down from anyone, is bleeding from multiple places on his face. And Jacob Fatu? He's smiling. He's enjoying this. The rest of the Bloodline joins in. It becomes a total assault. Drew's team tries to help, but they're overwhelmed. This isn't wrestling anymore. This is a public execution, and WWE is broadcasting it to millions of people worldwide. The moment that crossed the line. But here's where things go from brutal to absolutely unacceptable. Drew is already down. He's already beaten. The match is already decided. Any normal person, any normal wrestler with even an ounce of humanity would stop, would let the match end, would take the victory and move on. Not Jacob Fatu. With Drew lying motionless in the corner, barely conscious, bleeding, and clearly unable to defend himself, Fatu climbs to the top rope. And what does he do? He hits his signature moonsault. But he doesn't do it just once. He does it twice, back to back, on a man who is already unconscious. The referees are trying to stop him. Drew's teammates are trying to intervene. But Fatu is in a zone. He's in a place where logic, rules, and basic human decency don't exist. He's operating on pure vengeance. And then comes the move that has everyone talking about. The move that has Twitter in chaos. The move that has fans divided down the middle. Fatu picks up Drew's lifeless body, positions him in the center of the ring, and hits him with a Samoan spike so devastating that you could hear it throughout the entire arena. Drew's body goes completely limp. Medical staff immediately rush the ring. The match is essentially over, but the damage is done. Here's what makes this absolutely infuriating though. As medical staff are checking on Drew, as his teammates are showing genuine concern, as the crowd is in stunned silence, Jacob Fatu stands over Drew's body and does the Bloodline signature pose. The disrespect, the audacity, the complete and utter lack of respect for a man who has given everything to this business. WWE's problematic response. Now, you would think that WWE, a company that claims to care about their superstars, would have done something about this, right? You would think that there would be consequences, suspensions, something to show that what Jacob Fatu did was unacceptable. But no. Instead, what do we get? A backstage segment where the Bloodline is celebrating. We get social media posts from WWE's official accounts calling it the most dominant performance in WarGames history. We get commentary teams trying to justify what Fatu did by saying it was just business and payback for what Drew did. Are you serious right now? This is the same company that preaches about sportsmanship, the same company that has anti-bullying campaigns, the same company that claims to set an example for millions of fans around the world. And they're glorifying what is essentially an assault? The hypocrisy is astounding. It's disgusting. And it sends a terrible message to the fans, especially the younger viewers who look up to these superstars. And here's another thing that nobody is talking about. Where was WWE management during all of this? Where was Adam Pearce? Where was Nick Aldis? Where was anyone with authority to stop this madness? They were nowhere, because this wasn't an accident. This wasn't Jacob Fatu going rogue. This was booked. This was approved. This was WWE's way of establishing Jacob Fatu as the most dangerous man in the company, and they used Drew McIntyre as the sacrificial lamb to do it. The Bloodline's master plan. Let's talk about the bigger picture here, because what happened at WarGames wasn't just about Jacob Fatu getting revenge on Drew McIntyre. This was about the Bloodline sending a message to the entire WWE roster. Roman Reigns might be gone, he might be taking time off, but the Bloodline, they're more dangerous than ever. And with Jacob Fatu as their enforcer, their weapon of mass destruction, they're untouchable. Think about it. Who in WWE can stop Jacob Fatu now? After what he did to Drew McIntyre, one of the toughest, most resilient superstars in the company, who's going to step up? Who's going to challenge the Bloodline? This is psychological warfare at its finest. WWE has created a monster, and now everyone in that locker room is looking over their shoulder, wondering if they're next. But here's what makes this even more calculated. By having Fatu destroy Drew, someone who is massively over with the fans, someone who the WWE Universe respects and admires, the Bloodline has created heat like we haven't seen in years. Real, genuine, organic heat. People aren't booing Jacob Fatu because they're supposed to. They're booing him because they're angry. They're upset. They feel like an injustice has been done. And that's exactly what the Bloodline wants. But the question is, at what cost? How many superstars have to be sacrificed at the altar of the Bloodline before WWE realizes they've created something they can't control? Drew's uncertain future. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What happens to Drew McIntyre after this? According to reports, Drew suffered a legitimate concussion during the match. He's going to be out of action for an undetermined amount of time. And while WWE hasn't officially confirmed the extent of his injuries, sources close to the situation are saying it's serious. This is a man who has already dealt with multiple injuries throughout his career. A man who has fought through pain and adversity to become one of WWE's top stars. And now, because of WWE's booking decisions, because they wanted to make